So I've been reporting from the Middle East for the past 5 years. I was based in Dubai for ABC News and Bloomberg Television. Journalism was the thing I always wanted to do. I'm passionate about knowledge and people, and I think especially being Armenian and just having ties to both the West and the Middle East and Armenia gives you this sense of globalism where you're thirsty to understand what's going on in other places. And then once you understand, you're thirsty to share it and explain it. So that was always my driving force. So I had this amazing opportunity with ABC News when I was 25 to move to the Middle East and start reporting. And I grabbed that opportunity and I did the very best I could with that opportunity. And a lot of it ended up touching upon social media and new technology. So, of course, there's been a lot of analysis around how social media accelerated the Arab Spring, allowed for the creation of social movements. But even before that, covering what was happening at the grassroots level in places like Iran and Saudi Arabia by way of their reflections online. So I was always very clued into that. And then what happened in about January, February of this year is that I was watching very closely what was happening in Syria and how the journalists covering the region didn't really have the opportunity to convey the story with enough context or enough clarity or consistency to really help people understand, especially people here in the United States who don't have the background and haven't had the exposure to Syria in the past. So in January, February, I started to feel really passionate about this notion that we need a better way to explain complex issues, that we basically need to take technology and redesign the way we tell the news. Because right now you get a little piece of a report from here and there without really understanding the integrated whole of what's happening in any given society. And for me, I feel a very deep responsibility. I mean, I come from the United States, I have roots in the Middle East, and I want people in both cultures to really understand each other. So I got together with a group of journalists and technology specialists to start thinking about how can we redesign what we do in the news? How do we redesign foreign news around a given issue? And let's start with Syria because it's dire. So that was the origin of the project. Mm-hmm. And then over the past 4 or 5 months, we've had unbelievable partners in technology and journalists from different news organizations agreeing to come on board to help us figure this out. You know, a lot of people in the U.S. want to innovate the way we tell the news, but especially when you've been out in the field and you feel that something needs to change and that you have the opportunity to bring together amazing people who could be part of the project. We're working with Google, we're working with Prezi, they do visualizations, Quickie, they do videos, quick video turnaround. We do all sorts of partners. We're working with a group, most importantly, the thing I'm most excited about is we're working with a group of teachers in the United States to make a lesson about the Syria crisis for teachers around the United States using the same kind of technology, because technology doesn't have to be sophisticated to have a big impact. The question is, how can you transmit better information and a clearer explanation to people who are thirsty to understand what's going on? That's the core of it. And that's really the essence of what I do for a living as a journalist. Where it really becomes a question of social good is when you see something that needs to change and you find the way to do it. You pull together the pieces and you have the courage to step out of your normal daily life to try to create something new to solve a problem, because that problem at the end of the day affects all of us. If Americans don't understand what's happening in the world, then they can't really assess what their government's doing. This is supposed to be a democracy as concerns foreign policy. How can we really come together and find solutions if we don't even understand the problem? So I, as a journalist, felt responsible for trying to create something new. Everybody always asks when you create a website, oh, what's the business model? How are you going to make money off of it? It's like, we don't exactly know quite yet, but we know that this needs to exist. So we'll start there. The pieces for pulling it together, like anything in Armenia, it's like just getting started. You know, I have trouble sometimes asking for help. It can be the hardest thing, but to recognize, you know what, I don't understand something. I don't understand technology. Let me find someone who does and ask for their advice. Well, let me share this idea with people. You know, very often in the old economy, before the technological revolution in our lives, in our jobs, The old way was that if you have a good idea, you keep it to yourself and you don't share it. You're afraid someone's going to steal your idea. But in technology, that's not the way it works. You have to share your idea. You even have to share your design because you just have to be brave enough to do it. Because first of all, it's not really just the idea, it's the execution. So if someone takes that idea, you have to have faith in yourself that you're going to execute it better anyway. But also, you need to share the idea so that people who can help you can find you, so can see what you're doing and jump on board. So I was talking today, I was at The Economist, I was at Time Magazine. These are all guys who are interested in hearing more about this project and would potentially help down the line. And you have to go in there into those offices of these big companies and have the courage to say, you know what? This is what I'm doing. If you want to help, that would be great. If not, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to find the way to pull it together. And just to have enough faith in yourself to say, okay, you know what? Here's the problem I want to tackle. Americans don't understand what's happening in the world. It's not their fault. We're the journalists. We're the ones who are supposed to explain it. And we didn't explain it very well. So let's try to do something that is going to help them jump to a new level of understanding.
What you're saying is quite revolutionary in that you come out of the news industry where, breaking the news, having the first report out means big bucks and big prestige for the news company. So now you're saying, put it out there. Let's all have a conversation on what's happening around us and let's really figure out what's happening together. And you and I was just telling our audience here in the studio, you and I first met when you were covering Iran in 2009. And I want you to cover in a few sentences how things have changed since 2009. How are you seeing the difference because of technology, but also because technology has enabled people to share ideas with one another, how things have changed?
The most important way things have changed is that information has become a democracy of its own. So information will find its way out. It's very, very hard at this point for any control freak or dictator to put a clamp down on the story. It just can't be done anymore, for the most part. So that's one.
That was a big idea.
Well, I know. The other way things have changed is that there's a lot more noise. There's a lot, everyone is talking, which is good. It's fundamentally good, but we need to organize it because it's really hard to understand what's going on. There's a term in technology that you know, Alex, big data. Like journalism has a big data problem. There's too much data. And if we don't find a way to organize it, then we can't really process the whole picture. So yes, the glory and the ego is in being on the front lines, and you see plenty of that. We don't need more of it. Could I be on the borders of Syria and Lebanon or Syria and Turkey with a camera, being the hero, trying to be the hero of the story? Yes. But I personally don't choose to do that because I don't think that's what we need. I think we need clarity and we need to organize information. We're in a very complex world. Complexity is its own challenge, and we all have to make decisions based on that complex picture. We as individuals who have an opinion, and then the leaders of our countries, we're trying to figure it all out. So there's a crisis of information on top of the crisis of a civil war.
Sure.
And that's where I feel like I can make an impact. So in social good, that's my calling. And it's very, Alex, you know how happy I am as a reporter just doing my regular reporter thing. But sometimes you get an idea that doesn't leave you.
Yeah.
And something that has to be tried. And I'm a quite religious, faithful person as it is. I go to church all the time, but it reaches that level. It's like so sacred to you that you try this, that you just put other things aside and say, you know what? I feel called to give this a whirl. And then you start doing it, and the most amazing people come together to help you. And this one developer, or this one hosting service, this one, whatever it is, that is the kind of, you just ask people. I just asked Time Magazine to give us photos. I don't know if they will.
That's
and
great.
then you have to accept. Sometimes they'll help, sometimes they won't.
Sure.
But you have to ask.
Absolutely. Well, Lara, thank you so much for joining us. You sounded some central ideas to our bigger discussion today, and the biggest one being that unless we actually connect with one another and leverage the very tool that we have in our hands, information, we're not going to be able to get through the complexity of the day, complexity of the challenges that we face. And I think that's true for the communities where we work. That's true for the community of nations where we all work and exist. So thank you very much. And just for a last plug, SyriaCentral.com, right?
SyriaCentral.org.
.org. I apologize. So SyriaCenter.org. Visit, get the latest on Syria. Thank you so much, Lara.
Thank you. We'll be launching next month, but you can sign up for updates now on that site.
Sounds good. Take good care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.